So this is part 6 of my 2024 video game pickup series. We're talking about the Nintendo Wii today. This is probably my least favorite Nintendo home console. It's between this and the Nintendo 64 for that. That title. So when the year started, I had 23 Wii games, and these are 24 through 31. So it wasn't a library that I had a ton of games for, but I did have some of the first party standards, I guess is how I would phrase it. The first game on this list, Rodea the Sky Soldier, I have additional props for here because I bought this game twice last year. The game was released as a Wii U game with a Wii disc in it, and I'm not going to tear this apart, but it has a reversible front cover and comes with 2 instruction manuals. So this game is best on the Wii because of the control scheme and arguably the graphics, but just this is a very complicated game in terms of history. But basically I built my own Wii version. So I bought this game twice, and it will appear again in the Wii U video. I'm showing both versions here because some people probably buy the Wii U version and turn it into a Wii version and then don't have a Wii U version on their shelf. I have 2 copies, so I have it on both collections. But I bought this copy. Oh, this is another note before I get any further in. Starting with the Wii, I will be talking about buying either sealed games or games at retail because these are systems that are newer and I'm getting copies that are sealed or at retail. And when I do buy a game in one of those 2 circumstances, I will try to make a note of that on the price, that it was either a sealed copy, like on eBay or something, or a new copy from retail to denote that the price should reflect that. So anyway, I bought a new copy of Rodea the Sky Soldier on eBay for $24 on January the 19th. That's this copy. So this game is made by, or it was developed by Probe and produced by Yuji Naka of Sonic and Knights and Choo Choo Rocket, etc. Sonic Team fame, basically. The Wii version is definitely the better version of this game. It reminds me a lot of Nights into Dreams, the way it plays. It's not as good as Nights into Dreams, but an interesting game. I think the history of this game is probably more interesting than the gameplay itself. But I would say definitely play the Wii version of this game because the Wii U version is literally just a up-res version of the 3DS port, and it controls like garbage. It looks like garbage. It's not a very good game. There's a reason that the Wii version of this game got review scores in like the 7 and 8 range, and the Wii U version got review scores in like the 3 range. So my next pickup was an Atlas game. This is a launch game. It's probably the best launch game that I did not have. Trauma Center Second Opinion. I bought this game on eBay on January the 20th for $5. So this is not a series that I know a lot about. I think this is a port of a DS game, or a remake or reimagining maybe. I think that's why it's called Second Opinion. I haven't played any of the DS games, so that's just my understanding. But this is like a surgery simulator with some visual novel / soap opera elements to it. It's a very Atlas game. Like even if you didn't tell me that this were an Atlas game, I probably would suspect that it could be. All right, next up, Muramasa, the Demon Blade. I bought this on February the 19th on eBay for $33. This is like a side-scrolling hack and slash action game is how I would probably describe it. So it's a Vanillaware game, so of course it looks great. There's no point in dwelling on that too much. I think maybe the most interesting thing to me about this game is that Atlas didn't publish it, and I don't really know why, because Atlas and Vanillaware tend to have a good partnership. the game reminds me a lot of Odin Sphere. Like if you didn't put like if you took the branding off the games and just asked me, is this a sequel to Odin Sphere? I'd be like, probably, or it might be a prequel based on that it's from a different time period. But either way, these games seem like they're very connected in terms of gameplay, connected in terms of art style. Like, yeah, I totally could see this as a reimagining slash sequel of Odin Sphere in a different locale, different time period. But no, this is a completely different thing, and Atlus had nothing to do with this. It might actually be. Actually, I don't think that's true. I was going to say I think it's the only Vanillaware game that Atlus didn't publish, but I also don't think they published Grim Grimoire. So I think Atlus has published 4 out of their 6. So they've published Odin Sphere, Unicorn Overlord, 13 Sentinels, and Dragon's Crown. So yeah, I think those are the 4, and then they didn't publish Muramasa and Grim Grimoire. Alright, next up is Sin and Punishment, Star Successor. I bought this game on eBay on February the 19th for $30. So this is a Treasure-developed, Nintendo-published rail shooter. And in my GameCube video, I was talking about how I was sort of bemoaning the death of the rail shooter genre. And that would have been talking about like the 2005-ish era, that the genre seemed like it was sort of on the decline. This actually might be the last great mainstream full-priced rail shooter. I would have to really look and think about that, because this came out in 2010 in the US, and I can't really think of anything in that genre after that. This is a sequel to an N64 game, famously one of the very few that used the left hand on the D-pad, right hand on the control stick trigger setup that Nintendo envisioned as a third way to hold the controller. We did not get Sin and Punishment in the US, so I'm honestly a little bit surprised we got the sequel, but good game, difficult game. It's Treasure. It's what you would expect if you're familiar with Treasure's development output. All right, next up, I would say the last game for spring, so I would kind of split this here. These 3 I all bought, or these 5 I bought all early in the year, January through March. Next up is Sonic Colors. I bought this game on March 8th at GameStop for $13. So something that tripped me out about this is that not only is the front cover reflective, which you probably can see on the video, the spine is also, it stands out on a shelf. It's a different like finish, I guess. It's not as white. I wouldn't say it's as reflective as the cover, but it definitely looks different on the shelf. I actually was not totally sure that this was a real front cover. I had to get on eBay and look to find someone who had a picture of, because you needed not only the picture of the spine, you needed it compared to another game. So it took me forever to be satisfied that this is actually a real example of the artwork for this game. All right, so Sonic Colors, Sega published, obviously. This is a complete copy. This is probably the most traditional Sonic game on the Wii, I would say. I'm not really like super familiar with this era of Sonic's history, so I would say Heroes is the last game that I played at the time it came out, and then from like 05 through, I don't even know, probably 17 or so with Mania, I really didn't keep up with the series. I know that a lot of Sonic games around this time were using something called the Boost Formula, and this might have been Unleashed might be Boost Formula 2, I think it is. I don't know if this came out before or after Unleashed, but either way, this is probably the most traditional Sonic game on the Wii. It uses the Boost Formula because Unleashed has the Werehog stuff. So I think a lot of people kind of were nostalgic about this game since Sega remade it for PS4 and Switch and stuff. and with the definitive edition, quote, definitive edition, but it's a pretty decent Sonic game. It's not as good as, I don't think it's as good as Nintendo platformers, Mario, Kirby, Donkey Kong, etc. But Sonic is a decent series, and this is a decent game. As probably obvious from the first few parts of this video, I am a huge Sega fan, but unlike most modern consumers, that has nothing to do with Sonic. My love for Sega is more because of how batshit crazy they were and their arcade stuff. Sonic is just whatever to me. Alright, next up, I bought these 3 games all sort of in the same time period, all on eBay. So, yeah. Alright, I'll do it like this. So I bought SNK Arcade Classics Volume 1 on November 4th for $9.50. Oh, so this is sort of interesting. Cases. He's just being very particular here. Let me check these. That one's different. So this game was sealed, so that's definitely the case it came in. But the spindles. So all of my, like with my games that I've had since I was a child, all of the spindles in my games were like this, like in Nintendo published games. And then I had one game that was different, which was Knight's Journey of Dreams, that was in a case like that. And I was really sort of mystified as to why it was in that case. I think the answer is that non-Nintendo published games on Switch or on Wii tended to be very inconsistent about what kind of case and spindles they used, because this is not the first time I've run into this. I obviously prefer the Nintendo style, but I'm no longer going to act like I think something's wrong if it's in this sort of case, and especially if I see more than one copy of the game for sale in that sort of case. But anyway, SNK Arcade Classics, this is 16 Neo Geo games. I think they're MVS versions of the game. I tried to look into that before I filmed this to confirm, but I'm pretty sure these are all MVS versions, which is a little unfortunate to me because the AES versions are way more expensive, way harder to find. You can't play them on modern systems. The Arcade Archive line on Switch, PS4, those are also MVS versions. So I would have preferred these to be the AES versions of the game, but being able to play them on a CRT, if I hooked my Wii up to a CRT, it's actually currently not, but if I did, being able to play these sort of more in a traditional display method than on a modern flat screen, that would be a big perk of this version. So the 16 games on here, just quickly some of the standouts. I'm not going to go through all 16 games. You can look that up. Magician Lord, Metal Slug, Neo Turf Masters, Sham Show 1, King of Fighters 94. A lot of early games. Like, I think it's really clear that SNK intended to make more than one volume in this series. I would say at minimum 2, because the later stuff like Garou, the later King of Fighter games, Metal Slug 2, 2X, or 2X, 3, stuff that people would want, like that would be perfect. We plan on doing, quote, 3 volumes, because you got Metal Slug on the first one, Metal Slug either 2 or X, probably X on the second one, and then 3 on the third one. So you get one Nazca Metal Slug game on every volume if you do 3 volumes. I think that would have been the ideal solution for this. But I'm thinking this didn't sell very well because there's only volume 1. There's a SNK Arcade Classics Volume 0, which is pre-Neo Geo stuff, but you're not going to tell me that that was the plan all along, is we're going to call this Volume 1 because we have a Volume 0 in the oven. I think it's clear that this was supposed to be a much longer series than 0 and 1. Neo Turf Masters is really cool if you've never played it. Let's Tap. This is another Probe developed game. This one was published by Sega instead of NIS. So Sega had first right of refusal on all Probe games. This is a sort of mini game collection. I say that loosely because it's only like 3 games really. I think there's 4. One of them is pretty non-interactive. I bought this on eBay on November 4th, new for $14. So I'm going to try to get my hands like clearly in shot here. what you do is you sit the Wii remote like on a box or a table or something, and you have to tap the thing it's sitting on, and the vibrations, like I guess, move the sensor in the Wii remote and control the game. So for example, there's the one on the cover where they're showing them run and jump. The way you control it is like you would tap this way to run right, and you have to do it repeatedly, like in a cadence, like you would be running, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And then the jump, you do both at one time. It's a really kind of wacky control scheme. Like, this screams old Sega to me. This is the kind of crap they would have done on the Saturn or Dreamcast. I think this game is really neat. So I was playing on like a small table that I had sitting in front of my chair. It really is kind of rough on your hands if you're playing on a hard surface, so I couldn't see playing this for more than like 30 minutes at the time. But I'm sure that if you had like something more with more give in it, like a cardboard box or something, it probably wouldn't be as tiring to play. And then finally, I have another Sega published game, The Conduit. I bought this on eBay for $5 on November the 6th. This is a first-person shooter. Controls quite a bit like Metroid Prime 3, where you're pointing at the screen to aim. I'm sure that's how most first-person shooters control on Wii, but I don't really have any. I wouldn't consider Metroid Prime a third or first-person shooter, and the people who call it that sort of irritate me. But that's a different rant. But like, it's the closest control scheme that I have seen on the Wii is with Metroid Prime 3. This is definitely more shooter-focused than adventure-focused like Metroid is, or exploration-focused, I should say, like Metroid is. This is a game that's often pointed to as, quote, the killer app shooter for the Wii in its early days. Like, this is the kind of thing that would have been positioned as the Wii's answer to Call of Duty Modern Warfare, or Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, and Resistance or Gears of War, those sorts of things. I don't think it's that good. Like, I shouldn't say it's not good. I'm sure it's a great shooter. It's not on the level of those games. Like, this is the best we have at home option if you only have a Wii. Like, this is a competent first-person shooter. I do not think this is a system-defining experience for many people, like something like Halo or Gears of War or that era of Call of Duty would have been. But Sega published, cheap. I was interested in picking it up. And those are my Wii pickups for the year. Like I said, this is not a system that I have a huge amount of interest in, but I have, I'm trying to count quickly. I have 4 games that I would say 3 because Atlas wasn't Sega. Then I have 3 Sega published games, 1, 2, 3 more games that I would say have varying levels of Sega adjacency. So Naka here, Atlas, the Atlas acquisition. This is Vanillaware. Like, this game technically has nothing to do with Sega. It's just Vanillaware and Atlas have such a close working relationship. I have a strong interest in SNK's Neo Geo history, and then finally a Nintendo published game. So like, this is totally predictable stuff that I would have sought out and added. I'm pretty happy with these pickups. None of these are system defining things like, say, Mario or Zelda or Metroid, that sort of stuff. I mean, I already have that stuff, but these are good things to flesh out a library, I think, at this stage of my Wii collecting.